jumped to their deaths. They couldn't escape because the doors were locked to prevent them from stealing or from taking an unauthorized break. An unauthorized break meant you had to go to the restroom. And the restroom was 8 flights down, and it was an outhouse in back of the factory. So in 1980, President Jimmy Carter issued a presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th as National Women's History Week. So it went from a day and another day to a full week. And then in 1987, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress passed a public law which designated March as Women's History Month. Since then, Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama have issued a series of annual proclamations designating March as Women's History Month. President Jimmy Carter's beautiful words from his proclamation in 1980 truly capture the essence of Women's History Month. Here are his words without a Southern accent. From the first settlers who came to our shores, from the first American Indian families who befriended them, men and women have worked together to build this nation. Too often, the women were unsung, and sometimes their contributions went unnoticed. Too often. But the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built America were just as vital as those of the men whose names we know so well. Thank you. I think the mayor has a proclamation to read.
I do have a proclamation. That was a really nice history lesson. I think sometimes and I suspect probably especially for young women on our audience, you've been the beneficiaries of what women who have gone before have laid the foundation for. I know that there had been a lot of changes that had come into place before I got here and got into the marketplace, and I can tell you that there have been many, many more since I started that you now get to benefit from. So it's something we probably all need to be sure that we pay forward. Whereas March is National Women's History Month, and whereas women make innumerable contributions to society on family, local, state, national, and international levels in raising families, education, health, arts, science, business, and government, and whereas women's history is a march toward full equality and responsibility as citizens, whereas we believe that each generation of daughters, granddaughters, and nieces must have fuller opportunities to develop their fullest human potential. Now, therefore, I, Karen Sheik, Mayor of the City of Cortez, do proclaim the month of March 2020 as Women's History Month in the City of Cortez. I'm sorry. Is Erica here? Do you have a phone? Could you take a picture of this so that if you have space, you can put it in the paper? I'll come bring it. I'd just like to make a really quick plug too. Montezuma County has a chapter of the League of Women Voters. I'm a member, Terry's a member, and we have some men that are members as well. And I would encourage you to, if you're so inclined, to come and participate. They meet the second Saturday of every month, have some wonderful presentations by people coming to talk about issues that are of interest to all of us in this community, and we would love to see some new faces at those meetings. You can check the newspaper calendar to find out the time and the place. I think we have some youth.
At the citizen participation?
Yeah, do we have, well, yeah, we can do that. We'll wait until then. We have a rebate for the EV charger that was installed at the Welcome Center, and I think we have somebody from Empire Electric that was going to present that check.
Well, good evening, I'm Andy Carter, I'm with Empire Electric, and we're here to present a rebate check for the electric vehicle charger that the City of Cortez installed. It's over by the Welcome Center. It's north, it's kind of between the Welcome Center and the pool. It can charge up to 2 electric vehicles at one time. If it's charging one, it'll give approximately 20 miles of range for every hour of charge. If it's charging 2 cars, it cuts that in half. It was a project with the City of Cortez. Osprey Pacs also helped financially support it, and there was a charge ahead grant from the state of Colorado. So I'm here on behalf of Empire Electric to present $3,000, which is the rebate check we have for the city, for Mayor Sheik.
Great. City is always asking that money. Really appreciate it. Partnership with us on this. So we can thank you for here.
We're glad to do it. You're welcome.
All right, citizen participation is an opportunity for folks to address council if they would like to. I would like to remind you that if you would like to make a comment, that don't do it on something that's on the agenda, because you'll have the opportunity to do that. I also would like to caution you this evening to please not make any comments to council regarding the agenda item that will be on the February the 26th council meeting, having to do with New View Pharma. That is a quasi-judicial matter, and we are sitting in that capacity, and we cannot hear any testimony for or against in any way prior to that meeting. So please refrain from doing that, if you will. Just to kind of get things started, Mike thought that there were a couple of students that wanted to come and address council about a program they're participating in. Did they come? All righty.
Hello, my name is Rachel Burson, and this is Roman Winslow. We are from Montezuma Cortez High School, and we are representing the Cortez Youth Leadership Council. We're here today to present to the council a movement that is going through the House Rep right now in Colorado. It's called Sv2, Student Voice, Student Vote, and it is a bill that we are trying to get passed that would include 16 and 17-year-olds in school board elections. So we are trying to make it so that 16 and 17-year-olds have equal rights to any other adults in their school board elections. They would be able to vote and make movements for removal of any school board members, just as any adult could. So we would like to ask everybody here, we would like to ask this council specifically to sponsor and endorse the Sv2 movement so we can show our support towards this bill in the House of Representatives, and so our representatives know that this is something that's important to the people of Colorado. And we are asking everyone here to sign a petition we have. I don't know when or where you would sign the petition, maybe afterwards. We have some documents, so you guys can look over that. Some advantages to the Sv2 movement is its fair representation. The 16 and 17-year-olds are the people directly involved in the school, and so they are the people most educated on what's happening in our school system and the people who are going to be directly affected by school board elections. So it really directly affects those people. So we want to have representation from voters in the elections happening in our community. It improves civic engagement if our students are able to vote and then feel that direct effect on the community in a local and sort of civil way. Then they will have practice voting. They will understand how their vote affects their community and their nation as a whole. And then when they become 18-year-olds and they can vote on more national events such as presidential elections and Senate representatives and such sort, then they will already know how to vote. They will be practice voters and they will understand the value of their vote. And I think we can all agree America needs people to vote. Practical civil education. This also educates our students in civil involvement, and it encourages community care and community support. If the students feel like they can impact their community, it will encourage more love of the community and more care for the community. If they have the ability to change the community, they will pay attention to the community and they will care about what's happening, and they will, it'll just build a love for our school system and more involvement of the students in our school system. And yes. Do I ask for questions or no?
You can.
You can certainly ask for questions.
Are there any questions?
I have a question. Do you believe that 16 and 17-year-olds understand how detrimental it is or could be to change a board for light or transient causes? Do you think that they have the capacity to discern, the importance of not being hasty in their decisions? So
I think there's actually been studies done on the cognition of 16 and 17-year-olds and relative to fully developed adults. And as you know, our brains are not fully developed as an adult's brains are developed, but the part of the brain that is not developed in 16, 17-year-olds is what's called the hot cognition, the ability to process things that are happening here and now and make quick decisions based on very quick reflexes. So, but what is fully developed in 16 and 17-year-olds is what's called cold cognition, which is the ability to take in information and process it over an amount of time and then make decisions based on that. And it could be argued that maybe 16 and 17-year-olds might be a bit more rash or a bit more emotional in their elections, but also understanding how that affects their community directly and maybe seeing that and hearing from their local representatives and voting on it and seeing that would help them not to do that on a national level.
Good answer. The other follow-up question I had, the lowest, the people who vote the least are 18 to 24-year-olds. Do you see 16-year-olds bucking that trend? And if so, how would they?
I think 16 and 17-year-olds would buck that trend with this bill being passed because they would be able to feel directly the impact. It's harder, I think, for youth to grasp their impact in a vote nationally because it's drowned out and there's gerrymandering and stuff like that that makes you feel like you're powerless. And being able to see, I have this problem in my community, I don't like what I'm seeing, I don't like what's happening, and I want to make a difference, and then being told they can, and then making that difference and feeling how that feels and understanding that will then empower them to do that on a national level. So I think having this bill and having 16, 17-year-olds be like, I don't like how my school's run, being like, okay, then vote next time, and then they can see how that affects them, will increase the amount of at least Colorado youth voters. And I think that would be a positive effect not only in Colorado but nationally.
Well put. Thank you.
Rachel, how difficult is it to sign this petition, and how do we go about doing that?
That's a great question, Mike. So I actually have some information for you guys. I have some flyers. It's so easy. You can just type into your little Google browser, student voice, student vote, and SV2. It's very easy to remember, and it takes seconds to fill it out. We just need your name. The really important part of getting your petition in is we need to show to our representatives that this is something that matters to their constituents, because they work for us. So if we put our names on there and we get a bunch of names on this petition, then the representatives will know that this is something that matters to us, and they will be more likely to vote yes on it. So studentvoice.studentvote.com, you can read information. They have flyers on facts, and if you don't believe me, on the cold cognition, hot cognition, they have all sorts of resources on that. You can go look for yourself. You can fill out the petition. It takes seconds at most. You can even support it financially if you feel so inclined.
Well,
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you very much.
That is a question that I, was, into. It's, you guys want to vote in all the school elections and stuff. How do you feel about trying to work out something to get the teachers' wages up?
I think, personally, I find it very important that we get our wages up in the school. Our teachers are amazing, and our teachers deserve better, and I think our community deserves better. I think we need to show the people who are looking to come to this community and the people who are looking to leave this community that we are a population that values education, that values our youth, and I think investing in education pays dividends that are sort of invisible when you begin to think about it, but are evident when time is offered. And if we increase the wages for teachers, I think the growth to Cortez and the benefit to Cortez would be exponential. I don't know if that was the question. No. I could think about it, come back to you guys.
Good.
Anything else? We all good?
Thank you so much. I want to compliment you on the wonderful job that you did, and tell your teachers tomorrow that they did a good job too.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that I was invited to the Youth Leadership Council at the Cultural Center last week, and that's how I met these young people, and I was so impressed by their knowledge and passion for the community and to get involved in the voting process, and they're networking with a group from Durango, and these students know each other intimately, they're friends, and I can see how they're going to be a big influence in our community now and in the future. So I commend you, all of you, for what you're doing, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Would anybody else at this time like to address council? If so, please state your name and your address.
My name is Jacob Ballas. My address is 216 South Market Street.
Could we get you maybe to move to the mic just to your left there? Yeah, I think we might be able to hear you better.
And you said hold the button?
Yeah, just hold the button until it turns green.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Jacob A. Ballas. I live on 216 South Market Street. And I wrote some things down here. Due to the virtual total news blackout on this national pandemic, myself, as a concerned citizen of Cortez, have attended this meeting to ask our community leaders what they intend to do to protect our community and its citizens during this pandemic. These are just some questions that I have. Will there be quarantines? Will there be roadblocks? Temperature checks at the city buildings, at the courthouse, at said roadblocks? Morgue services, cemeteries, door-to-door health checks. Food delivery to the families that are quarantined. Medicine delivery to the families that are quarantined. Who takes care of mom and dad? Who takes care of mom and dad's kids when mom and dad are sick? What if the trucks stop coming with all the fresh food? How many respirators in our county do we have? How many dialysis machines do we have? Could there be martial law? Could there be curfews? What would happen if we broke that curfew? Will there be state or federal assistance? Some folks don't even have internet. How are you going to inform people? Who will pay the sick and unable to work people's rent, emergency credit, or will we be kicked out on the street sick? Will we still be able to have water, sewer? The sick individuals, what will you do with the waste, the bedding? Will it be going to the landfill? Will it be hazmated? Will schools stay open, or should they be closed immediately to prevent this spread? If the citizens cannot pay water, trash, electric, rent, house payments, car payments, or go to work because of this pandemic sickness, will you use law enforcement in a natural crisis to kick these families out? Or will you arrangements to accommodate each other's during this crisis? And what precautions have you discussed with each other on what actions you have taken on this issue as of this meeting?
I can understand how scary it must feel right now, because this is obviously a disease that's worldwide, not just localized in a distant country.
It definitely is the definition of a pandemic.
That's right. I would encourage you to get in contact with Karen Dixon at the Public Health Department.
I have.
Have you spoken with her?
I've talked to Montezuma, San Juan.
Okay. We do have emergency preparedness.
And I had to go do a public records request to get information that is going to be redacted.
Redacted in what way?
I wasn't told anything else but being redacted.
Ma'am,
Information that's not supposed to be to the public because of certain guidelines, I'm not understanding.
I would wait until you get the information before you get too concerned about what you're not getting, because it may be that it's the redaction. I can't imagine why it would be redacted, but
I couldn't either.
Yeah.
That's what I was very concerned about.
But I do know that there are emergency plans in place that the county and the cities coordinate, as well as the health department, law enforcement agencies, first responders. So it is something that this community has given some thought to. Yes, we need to be aware, we need to be thoughtful and plan ahead, but we also don't need to borrow trouble either. It's the cases of this virus in this country are very minimal, and I don't know that any have been reported
as of right now,
in the state of Colorado at this point. That's right. But I can assure you, your public health department's on top of that.
Well, the PR that I've had the past 2 days, I didn't get an answer from no one from Montezuma County at all.
And you actually have talked with Karen Dixon?
I've talked to a lot of folks. CDC, the World Health Organization, Denver. I've talked to a lot of folks, ma'am. And it seems like it is a media blackout. Everybody's being told here in the United States it's okay. But yet in every other country, they're doing a lot of things to prevent. Yet we're bringing folks, thousands of people at a time, on international flights of 22 hours of just recirculating air to the States, to our military bases where a lot of personnel are moving in and out. That is not quarantine.
Well, I think those people are being isolated. Why don't you make sure that you leave your contact information, and let us see if we can follow up and get a little bit more information from the Public Health Department. Would that be helpful to you?
I just would like some facts.
Okay, we'll see what we can find out.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Rachel Medina, 411 East First Street. I just wanted to bring up a topic that I didn't get a chance to speak with Phil Johnson about, because I didn't realize it until recently. But I was driving on west on Empire Street and had to wait quite a while to take a right-hand turn because the people in front of me taking left, there's a lot of intersections right there, so I'd really like to see a right turn lane on Empire turning onto North Broadway. I know money is tight right now, but I think that would be really beneficial to traffic flows there. We already have an acceleration lane on North Broadway 491. So if we could have a right turn lane, or just look at the possibility, I think that'd be nice.
Okay.
So, that's all
So
I have.
noted. Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.
Anyone else?
Hi, Mindy Nelson, wrote in. First off, I would like to, you wouldn't think that you would have to discipline the city people with leadership positions that go on social media. You'd think they'd have enough respect for their own community. They wouldn't act out the way they have. Attached, I have a few, this is from Dave Waters, that is out of town. And he sent an email to everybody, and he attached a few of the demeaning, antagonistic, taunting, and arrogant Facebook posts from a few of the P&Z commissioners. Keep in mind that Lana and him does not do Facebook, and a lot of this was provided by other citizens. He feels the commissioners need to resign or be unappointed. He feels that you have allowed this behavior to get out of hand, and that the new city council should not have to deal with the situation that you have allowed to exist. He had discussed an issue with Tracy and Eva and Phil, and he was asked to contact you before the city council with the issue. Unfortunately, I am out of town, unable to meet with you, which is what you have preferred, so consequently, I'm sending you this email. At the council city meeting, January 28th, after I finished speaking, I ended up standing on the other side of the room next to where the staff was seated. What I witnessed there, I found beyond appalling, watching the two women created this mess who have wasted $200,000 because of their lack of communication with the community. So disinterested in the public comments that had to take several short videos because I could not believe what I was seeing. I have attached the short videos showing their disrespect by ignoring the public comments. Please note that Miss Connolly is drinking coffee and reading a book on her mini pad. Tracy disappears out of the room multiple times for 30, 40 minutes at a time when she should be in the room, and she's doodling and playing on her phone. Extremely disinterested. This happened throughout the entire meeting, and this is why I believe they should be asked for their resignations. This is how they acted every time I spoke to them regarding the land use code issue. If anyone should have any paying attention to it, it should have been them. Therefore, I have no confidence that they can go through this process again successfully and not waste another $200,000. It's my opinion that they represented the city Cortez poorly, and I'm sure that I am not the only one who observed this behavior, included some of the council candidates. This kind of behavior is why there are 14 candidates running for 5 positions, because they are tired of this kind of behavior. One last thing is, I don't believe that 350 plus people showed up to the meeting intending to be ignored by the 2 P&Z staff members that were the heart of the problem. I appreciate your attention to this matter. Well, John came back, city manager says, I wanted to acknowledge receipt of your email, and while not wishing to throw gasoline on the fire, I completely disagree with you. This was not Tracy or Neva's land use code. This was inherited by both planners after it was instigated by Tracy's predecessor. The staff did not waste $200,000. It was already spent. Tracy was left with this mess and was completely unacceptable. Blaming staff for the fiasco is both wrong and irresponsible. Staff takes their direction from the council. Unfortunately, this is probably the 3rd council to deal with this mess. If you want to blame someone, you have them fired. Then take your shouts out at me. So it goes on about misconduct, and if you say
Mrs. Nelson, your time is up.
If this was put on Tracy's lap,
your
then why
time
did
is up.
she sign the contract?
You need to sign. You need to sit down. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right, we have, go ahead.
Tiffany Randall, 519 North Texas Street. I just wanted to come up here and,
Tiffany, let me ask you a question. Is there actually a house on that lot?
I own that lot.
Do you live in that lot?
No.
Okay, then what's your home address?
Okay, my home address is 22668 County Road S, Dolores, Colorado.
Okay, thank you.
Does it matter?
Yes, it does.
Because I own a business and I do own property in this city.
Yes, but you were asked to list your residence, not a lot that you have in town.
Thank you.
Okay.
With that lovely introduction, I was trying to be really kind in my words, and so now I'm jumbled. I apologize. I think in my 30 years of life, I've recognized that communication solves a lot of issues, many misunderstandings that everybody can have, and many information that may have been misconstrued. With that being said, I know that we can work together to form a better community if the communication is reciprocated from both sides. From our side, the citizens, the people you asked to show up at these meetings to be involved, and from the government side, you as elected officials and all of the staff. With that being said, I'm going to ask for transparency tonight. Can you please give the public an update on the embezzlement of the funds from the City of Cortez? The public has held very little information that has been left, and that is our money just as much as it is yours. We all pay taxes. I generate sales tax revenue. We have a right to know what's going on in our community, and we have a right to know how you're handling it, and if we need to be involved, and if you're handling it appropriately. I would just ask that you be transparent. I would also like for the public records to be more transparent. You tell people to be involved, and yet to go back and read the minutes and watch the meetings, and that's great. But the minutes from the last council meeting of the 3.5+ hours of public comment were a page and a half. How can the city really be transparent when you can't go back and read minutes that are full and complete? And that's just one example. If you go back, you can read them all, and you can notice that it doesn't compare to what's being said. My parents sent in a core request on January 21st of 2020, and yet there has been no records or recordings released. Per CRS 24-72-203-3B states that the city has a maximum of 7 working days to respond with documents, and yet the city has exceeded that. Why? Why is there no transparency, and why is it so hard to get information from the City of Cortez? We have witnessed the county commissioners opening their doors recently to the candidates for city council positions, and they're willing to try to mend relationships. I would love to see the City of Cortez do the same. Thank you.
Just to briefly give you an update, if you were at the workshop, there was a financial update. We are working toward resolving the financial issues, and that was presented at the meeting tonight. As far as the minutes of the last meeting, there were lots and lots of individual comments, and it's really hard sometimes to be able to take those down verbatim. But any citizen at any time can go on the city's website and live stream that meeting and then see every comment that was made. So there is transparency in that sense. As far as the information is concerned, we have staff that is doing the best they can to get that information out as quickly as possible. There was a significant amount of information that was requested. It takes a little bit of time to get that gathered together and to be sure that everything that was requested is provided. And that's on top of everything that that individual staff member is responsible for doing just in the regular course of the day. So I think the city is trying really, really hard in order to be able to provide transparency. And
So with that transparency, can you tell us who embezzled the funds, how much was embezzled, and all of that? Because that's the transparency.
We are still working on that, and we are not at liberty to be able to share the information on who was involved.
That's the transparency that the people are...
there are some things that we're just not at liberty to be able to share, but they are working on it, and as we gather more information, I can assure you that it will be provided.
You've been telling us for months that you're moving forward, and
Tiffany, it takes a long time. This is something that it's just taking us a long time in order to gather all the information that we need. It's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of putting people on the job. In fact, I was visiting with our financial director this afternoon, and we are making progress. It's slow, but it's sure. So it's not a question of us trying to hide anything at all. If we were interested in doing that, we never would have told the public that there was a problem. So give us a little credit, okay?
Well,
Thanks.
if I could complete my sentences and ask a question, then you could respond. That would be transparency. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we have no public hearings tonight. We do have some unfinished business. The agreement with Living Solar. Chris, oh, there he is.
Good evening. At the last council meeting, an agreement between the City of Cortez and Living Solar was presented, and council determined that they would like to postpone that agreement. There was some discussion about the damage to the trees and maybe having them also pay for taking them down, removing them, etc. I was asked to look into that and to bring some information back and look at doing that agreement. In the process of doing so, I found that I think there are some mitigating issues that really were caused by the City of Cortez and not the responsibility of the contractor. The maps that I had left on your podiums up there, if you'll take a look at it, it has a red dashed line that shows where the current location of the line that was trenched that goes from the Welcome Center out to the charging station. This map was completed for the city to present to the contractor. You can see where the trees are located. You can see that it's a narrow strip of land. So it's not like the city did not know that trees might be damaged. We did not say anything about that. That's the first thing. Secondly, a narrow trench was going to be put in, but the city came back and said, oh, we would like an additional conduit placed. Well, in order to put the conduit in, that the line that goes through that has the conduit for the EV charging station is high voltage. The other conduit might have regulating lines, and so it had to be at least 18 inches from the other conduit, which then required that the contractor use a 24-inch bucket. We caused that. It wasn't the choice of the contractor. So in looking at those things, I just thought, you know, to be fair, the contractor did what we asked, and we probably should not ask them to pay any additional fees for removing those trees. They still agree that they will help replace any trees and pay part of that. I think that is probably more than fair. So that was why I went ahead and rewrote. We did not rewrite the agreement, but left it as it was, where the contractor would agree to help replace trees should they die within the year.
And you're still recommending we pay them a retainage we're holding, the $1,500, or did we pay that?
Oh, yes, I think we still pay them. We're talking about $750.
But they have also agreed to pay if
They have agreed.
if the trees die. And
Yes,
there's no
if you
certainty
agree
that
to
they
this,
will.
then they've agreed to
They
sign
would-
that
they would
also.
pay it, and that was $1,500, I believe, was it not? Was that-
The retainage is $1,514 or something like that.
And so we're not going to keep it, but if the trees die, then they will pay to have them
That is correct.
pay for the trees themselves.
Yes.
Council, does anybody have a question? Because I know that was
Yeah,
concern.
I appreciate the information. Mr. Burkett, this is stuff that, I wish I would have known before we spent a lengthy amount of
Yes,
time discussing.
we really could have done a better job.
No, yeah, and that's, I'm not placing blame on anyone, things happen, but, I apologize to the contractor for making the assumption that there was some fault on their part, so this clears it up
It
greatly,
does.
and I appreciate that.
They just did what we asked them to.
Yeah, we did. Or they did.
Or they
Thanks.
did.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
that's
it.
very helpful. So, Mike, is there anything else that we need to do on this,
Can we
Dan?
vote this? Because it was, direction was to send it back to them with the contract, so can you vote to accept the contract that's currently been done?
Can we do that at this time right now, then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then may I have a motion, please?
Go ahead.
I move that the mayor be directed to sign the agreement between the city, Cortez, and with Living Solar for the possible future replacement and identify trees damaged during the charge ahead grant project.
I'll second that.
Lucero,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts, Levy,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. Under new business, thanks, Chris, we have a quasi-judicial item regarding setting a public hearing for a change in location of a hotel and restaurant liquor license for Me Mexico. Linda, Mike?
Mike, hearing.
Sorry. We need to set the public hearing date for this so it can be noticed and published, and that's tonight's activity.
And are we looking at setting it for February the 25th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody have a question about that?
As the memo says, Mia Mexico is moving from their current location on South Broadway to the location that Jack and Janelle's was located in, and that requires a public hearing because that building has never had a liquor license.
Okay.
So that just is, Mia Mexico has a liquor license, but they did not, so that's why this requires a public hearing.
So, may I have a motion?
I make a motion to set a public hearing for change of location in a hotel and restaurant liquor license for Me Mexico, and have a public hearing on February 25th, 2020 for consideration of the change of location.
I'll second.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, ordinance number 1273, Series 2020, approving on first reading regarding the use of electric motor vehicle charging stations. Mike?
This is coming back to you. We had been considering a parking ordinance. The state of Colorado enacted a parking ordinance of its own. What we did was adopt that one as the city's ordinance. We'd be enforcing it. We'd be taking it to court. We'd be receiving the funds. The state fine is set at the fine that's on this ordinance, so we can't go lower than that. This applies to all charging stations on public or private ground. We would still be able to enforce the, what am I trying to say, the state ordinance if needed, but right now this ordinance would also allow the parking enforcement officer to be able to do it. It wouldn't have to be a certified peace officer. So staff is looking at recommending that this ordinance be approved at first reading tonight and set for a public hearing, final reading on the 25th of February.
Okay. Right. Any other questions?
So this is just for parking on the charging stations?
Yes, sir. What it involves is the state, there's also some articles I sent you, but the state has really got behind electric vehicles, and so they've pretty much defined nobody in a gas or diesel or non-electric vehicle can park in one of those. And when you're done charging, you've got a little bit of a grace period, but they want you to move on because people need to get in there. The ordinance, I forget which times in the evening till the early morning, isn't enforced, but during the high traffic times when people would need to charge is when it is. I want to say 11 to 4 a.m. is what I'm remembering.
This is just pushing it forward to a public hearing, though.
Yes, sir.
So those questions we can...
And if you don't pass this, basically what you're going to do is you're going to be enforcing the state ordinance, and they'll go to county court, and those folks will get the fines and the court costs.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion we consider approving on first reading ordinance number 1273, Series 2020, regarding the use of electric motor vehicle charging stations for parking a motor vehicle, and set for a final reading on February 25, 2020.
Second it.
Betts.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. Acceptance of a Colorado State Aviation Grant for airport maintenance and appointment of Russ Machen as the project manager. John?
As council's aware, since 2019, we have been working on widening the runways at the airport. And last year, the bids came in too high because we bid it late in the year, so we just decided to throw them out. We rebid it, and the opening was on Monday, so I imagine that the next council agenda, you'll have those bids, but they were within budget, I can tell you that already. And so the state of Colorado requires that a project manager be named for this project, and since I'd really love to spend all that time at the airport watching construction, Russ is out there, and so I request that you name Russ Machen as the project manager for this grant.
Are there any questions, council?
I don't have any.
I suspect Russ knows a lot more about airport taxiways than you do, too. So, okay, can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to accept the Colorado State Aviation Grant. Excuse me, I lost my voice here. That's funny. We'll consider approving the grant offer from the state of Colorado for the airport paving maintenance, and approve Russ for the project manager.
Second that?
Levy.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Betts.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. Refuse truck weight limit impacts, Phil.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Here to talk to you about our refuse trucks and our limit for weight. We are actually exempt from state law for the weights because we're a municipality. We have single axle compactor trucks, but we are not exempt from the safe tire load rating. So we are driven by that. And as an interaction with the Port of Entry and the State Patrol, they brought it to our attention that our trucks have been overweight. They haven't been doing any enforcement actions on it. They've just been working with us, bringing it to our attention, and we've met with them and staff. As a result of this, I met with Equipment Maintenance Supervisor Marvin Kramer, Refuse Foreman Eddie Villalpando, and Recycling Coordinator Colby Early to discuss this issue and any potential remedies. Possibilities discussed range from upsizing tires, adding a second fixed axle, and adding a pusher axle, along with the operational maintenance costs for each of these options. This conversation also included how Public Works gets our trucks built in the future to address this issue and potential growth on our routes. So, in talking about our current condition and operational impacts, we talked about truck lengths, tire wear, horizontal and vertical clearances, turn radius, and maintenance impacts. And as a result of that, and we looked at, like I said, looking at increasing our tires, which you'd think would be the low-hanging fruit, just increase the rating of the tires. Well, then we'd have to change the wheels that those tires hold, and then those two wheels would be rubbing up against each other on that single axle, so we'd have to, increase the entire axle itself. So at that point, we're gutting that truck on the bottom end, and so in relying on the people I work with, because I don't do this for a living, I have, refuse guys and recycle guys in Marvin who takes care of these equipment, so I'm relying on their input and perspective and experience on how to determine this choice. And as a part of that discussion, the pusher axle seems like the best remedy. And what this is, it's a single tire additional axle that will ride in front of the fixed axle on the back of the compactor trucks. And we can lower that and raise it with the air system that's on the trucks already there to help, disperse the weight load on the tires. Just like you see with concrete trucks, you'll see that drop axle in the back. So they can disperse their weight on the roadway, of course, across all of those tires. And the beauty of this is that we're going to be able to pick up an additional 11,500 pounds of carrying capacity in our trucks. And right now, we have had to cut back our loads to about 50% or ish to make sure that we maintain compliance with this safety rating for our tires. And the reason that we're talking, and I mean, obviously we're spending money, but I wanted to bring to the fact of the matter is that we did not budget for this, this issue, this condition being brought to our attention. But we did budget $160,000 for a refuse truck replacement this year. And we feel, in speaking with Marvin and my guys, that the $160,000, we should be able to absorb this addition, these for 2 truck replacements, and build our new truck. If in fact our bids come in slightly higher than the totality of $160,000, of course we'll come back to the council to get approval for that expense. But I do also want to throw out the caveat that if that in fact does exceed the budget, it's not general fund impact. This is refuse user fees that pay for this, and that fund is solidly in good standing so far. We'll find out when we get our report up. So I'm open to any and all questions you guys have. I know that I was hoping that Gary would be here because he's the truck guy up there, and he could help me sell this. So I'm open to any questions.
Well, just, Phil, would this change the budget for next year? Going this route by using this $20,000 for a couple of push axles, would we readjust as far as our truck need next year?
Well, we have currently 3 trucks that we use as our mainstay for refuse and one backup. We're going to be purchasing a new truck this year, a brand new build, and we're going to retrofit 2 trucks. So that's going to give us, that'll bring 3 of our trucks up to compliance with the load rating. And then as we cycle out, which won't be the 2021, but 2022, when we go through another purchase window, we'll have that incorporated into the design.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
No. I don't have any.
May I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion we allow staff to purchase 2 pusher axles from Hardline Equipment at the quoted price of $20,158,000.
Second.
Levy?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Betts? Aye. Sheik?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you. All right, we have no other items of business.
No, you have the janitorial.
Oh, I thought we already did that. Okay. Okay, we'll go back. The janitorial contract. If I could have a motion on that, please.
Do you want an explanation?
I'm assuming that we don't have any additional discussion on the janitorial service for the Welcome Center? Okay. Can we have a motion?
I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but would it be safe to say I'd make a motion to approve Redfin's janitorial contract to honor their 2019 bid price? That one?
That works.
I second that.
Levy?
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Betts? Aye. Sheik?
Aye. All right. Now we have no other
There you go.
items of business. At this time, would any citizen like to address council? Okay. No attorney's report, city manager report.
I have no update tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Any city council committee reports?
I didn't attend a committee this time. I'm kind of in between.
My gosh.
Anyway, but I did go to the power breakfast this morning at the First National Bank. It's sponsored by the United Way of Southwest Colorado and the Cortez Area Chamber of Commerce. And with the spokesperson was Ellen Babers, and her topic was active listening skills. And it's a wonderful topic for all of us to attend to. So, and she gave a terrific discussion of it, and she has a website, and I'd encourage you to contact those folks, and she did an outstanding job. And it was a very well turned out. A lot of people from the community were there, business people, and some of the new council members, and really appreciate all your turnout. Thank you.
Probably something we can all do a better job on.
Yeah.
I'll just mention one thing, and there will be more information forthcoming. I'm sitting on a committee right now called the Homegrown Talent Initiative, which is local business leaders, people in education, people that have been elected to public office, and students as well. And this is kind of a grassroots organization that's looking at ways to implement better means of combinations of education and community involvement. Like I said, there'll be more information forthcoming, but I think there's some pretty progressive things going on right now with this kind of marriage of the importance of what goes on in a community and the kind of education that goes on as well. And they're starting to really see the benefits of that in other communities. But like I said, this will be something I'm hoping that council, the new council, will be involved with, or at least one member of the council.
Did you keep them updated on that, maybe, since
I
you're
will.
involved in it? Good. Okay.
And I did attend another workshop. It's called the Four Corners Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. And the purpose of this workshop was to discuss human trafficking in the Four Corners area. And you may or may not be aware that there is human trafficking in this area. And this task force is dedicated to discovering what types of human trafficking is involved in this area. And it's quite extensive. You know, some of it's under the radar, and but it's an issue that we need to be aware of and be concerned with. Thank you.
Okay. There were a couple things I wanted to mention. I have gotten, and Bob Wagner's here, if he wants to say a few words. I've gotten a couple of letters of from individuals, both from our community as well as from the Southwest Civic Winds Board of Directors. They're based in Durango, but it's a group of musicians who have written to express their support for Cortez's desire to build a band shell. Bob Wagner's been really instrumental in kind of spearheading this. There has been, at this point, nothing concrete other than that city staff and interested people have actually looked at a possible band shell location and have discussed, you know, what it needs to look like in order to be a little bit more than a bandstand, which we'll have at Montezuma Park, I'm hoping this summer. Anyway, I just have found it really interesting that we've had lots of people, I've had people contact me via email or just in conversations on the street about how much they would like to see this project get off the ground. Bob and his interested group have indicated that you know, obviously they want city support, but they are actually willing to raise the funds to do this. And to me, that's a perfect public government partnership. It gives us the opportunity as a governmental body to be able to do what we can to move a project that actually was brought forth by members of our community who say that there is a need, and that they in turn are willing to do what they need to do in order to make it happen, rather than to say, well, this is what we want, now you do it. So I do have to commend that group. They are meeting this Thursday to talk a little bit more about it, and it is my hope that one day we'll have a really lovely band show in Cortez. We've got some wonderful musicians, so it'd be nice for them to have a place where they could play. I also did get just a short little handwritten note from bridge clients just expressing their appreciation to the city for their support of the bridge. So that council should know about that. Our workshop meeting tonight, we had an update on the janitorial bid for the Welcome Center, which obviously we've already voted on. There was a lengthy report from the Finance Department providing an update on the 2016 bookkeeping cleanup that we're getting off the ground. He talked about a victims assistance grant and the ramifications of what's happening with that. He discussed the possibility of the city having a sales tax audit just to be sure that our businesses are in compliance. And then he did spend extensive amount of time giving us an update on the land use code, how it was funded, details on how what services were provided and how they were paid for, as well as almost a ream of documentation just to make sure that the general public is aware that the city is abiding by what they're supposed to, and that we're paying our bills and fulfilling the requirements of grants that we are lucky enough to be able to receive. There was a discussion on commission and board's qualifications. There's quite a bit of discussion about disciplinary action, and so we talked about that and where you draw the lines between freedom of speech, which I think most of us would agree we like to have, and how that's impacted by a person's willingness to volunteer to serve on a city commission or board. We discussed panhandling, pedestrian safety, and median ordinances, just to get an idea of the level of that problem, if it is one in our community. So we got some good feedback on that, and then at 7 o'clock we had to adjourn for an executive session. So at this time, is there anything else for the good of the city? In that case, tonight's meeting is adjourned.